Alright, look, I didn't really plan on making too much content with myself being really negative on here, cause I actually like talking about things that I actually like, and all that negativity, it's not healthy for the soul, man. But every time Disney releases another live action remake, my hatred for them intensifies, and my heart shrinks down 3 sizes smaller like I'm the Grinch. Honestly, that live action Lilo and Stitch remake, literally one of my favorite Disney films ever, might actually be my 13th reason. Once upon a time, Disney made real magic, and yet these days, it seems like all they do is attempt to remake that magic again and again and again. I guess my main question with this video is, how is it that the world's most magical and imaginative company became so unimaginative? Like, obviously live action versions of animated properties have existed for like ever, but at least in Disney's case, their live action remakes became a staple for them during the 2010s. The adaptation of Alice in Wonderland in 2010, along with Maleficent in 2014, set the tone for the rest of the decade. But at least those films were pretty spaced out in their releases, and gave unique twists on the animated stories they were adapting. Like, Alice in Wonderland basically only exists to get in on that 3D boom started by Avatar. Cinderella in 2015 was a pretty modest success, but the moment that Disney learned how lucrative these remakes could actually be were the back-to-back successes of The Jungle Book and Beauty and the Beast. Both of those films grossed basically $1 billion, and were more or less straight one-for-one remakes of their animated counterparts, especially in the case of Beauty and the Beast. And after those made bank, it opened up the floodgates for Disney to make more remakes of their animated films. Again and again and again and again.
Him, her, bodies!
Like, somebody please inform me, who the hell was asking for a live-action Dumbo remake? Or Mulan minus all the charm, characters, and music? You could argue that it was at least a novel concept for the first few of them, but majority of them are literally one-to-one copy and paste adaptations. Except without any of the heart. Like, genuinely, compare any two scenes from one of these animated films to their live action counterparts, and it's just clear that something's lacking in the live action version. I watched as photorealistic Mufasa died in front of Simba, and I literally felt nothing. Probably because of the lack of any discernible emotions coming from Simba, like, at all. I just find it so interesting that one of the main reasons for these films, besides making a quick profit, is that they look more real. And yet, ironically, they feel less real than their cartoon versions. My main issue with these films, besides them being soulless cash grabs, is the terrible precedent that it sets for animation as a whole. Before I say anything else, I gotta emphasize.
Animation is cinema. Animation is not a genre.
It's a medium for creating stories, and honestly, it's probably the most expressive storytelling medium that there is. Literally any kind of story your mind can think of. Comedy, action, romance, drama, psychological thrillers, horror, all these unique genres can be told through animation. There's a reason why films like The Lion King or The Little Mermaid are still considered timeless iconic films even decades later. They were films created for and perfectly suited to be told through the medium of animation. But by remaking these films constantly through live action remakes, or photorealistic CGI in the case of Lion King, it's sending a message that animation is a lesser form of art. That this animated film was just a rough draft and here's the real version.
What the fuck?
And intentional or not, this has very negative connotations for animation. Animation in many ways is already perceived as just for kids, and all these films do is enforce that stupid notion more and more. These animated films are timeless classics for a reason. They were born out of true artistry from passionate storytellers and animators, more often than not shaped by unique experiences. And because of that, those films really can't be replicated without basically living out those same exact experiences. But in the case of these remakes, they just regurgitate these familiar stories back to us, oftentimes with the bare minimum of creativity to appeal to the audience's underlying sense of nostalgia at the expense of their own animated catalog. And when even the studio that built its entire empire on the back of animation treats it as outdated or lesser, what message is that really sending the rest of the industry? Believe it or not, there's actually a point in time where films actually had to earn their status as blockbuster films through artistic vision, innovation, and oh yeah, actually being good. However, Disney and their remake machine flips that idea on its head, with those films constantly rewarding blatant creative shortcuts. It's the same reused plot, character, and music you remember from when you were younger, with a new shiny coat of CGI paint. Isn't it so amazing? Not really. All this approach to storytelling does is trains the audience and executives to equate familiarity with quality. It teaches the film industry that this is how you succeed, not through vision, but through repackaging. And that mindset is starting to trickle down to other studios. I mean, we're seeing it already with DreamWorks' live-action How to Train Your Dragons remake. At this point, Hollywood's not even in the business of telling stories anymore, they're just selling us updates. When a company as large as Disney turns its vast library of classics into a checklist of films to remake, it's not just harmless nostalgia anymore, not when it becomes the norm. It's an active threat to creativity and new ideas in Hollywood. Like, really think about it. Why take the chance on a new animated musical when you can just redo Beauty and the Beast? Why create a new adventure film where you can just throw the scraps of Aladdin into a microwave? Why greenlight any new ideas when the spreadsheet shows a safe billion-dollar bet with far less actual work involved? And ultimately, what does this teach the next generation of filmmakers and fans? That creativity is risky? That innovation won't be rewarded? That making something new is far less important than making something safe? But honestly, even my grumpy ass can admit that from a certain standpoint, if you really squint, you can't even blame Disney for constantly cranking these out, because for some reason, they keep making money. Disney isn't remaking its animated classic films because it ran out of ideas, far from it actually. It's doing it because, from a business standpoint, it works to a stupid extent. In the eyes of Disney, and honestly most of Hollywood these days, they see original films, especially original animated films, as risky business. New ideas can flop, so why even take that chance where you can just remake a beloved classic like Renaissance era Disney films? That's damn near as close as you can get to just printing money. Those stories are already proven successes. The characters are already popular, the music has chart-topping recognition, and the brand loyalty is already baked in. All Disney has to do is repackage that existing IP with just enough polish to call it new. And the result? A billion-dollar global hit. We're literally seeing it in real time with the live-action Lilo and Stitch remake. I'm not sure I've seen a single person say anything positive about this film at all. And yet, because it has the same name as a beloved classic, it's doing gangbusters at the box office. Disney doesn't remake its classics because it has to. It remakes them because it's the easiest $1 billion they'll ever make. I really hope I'm not just rambling over and over again, but seriously, the entire concept of Disney's conveyor belt of recycled classics and nostalgia just really irks me. And don't get me wrong, I'm not some anti-nostalgia psycho crazy person or something. Nostalgia can actually be quite a powerful tool when it's actually personal. It can remind you of who you were, how you felt, or where you came from. But Disney's remake cycle turns nostalgia into a product, and by constantly miming our memories for revenue, it cheapens those memories and risks ruining the original's magic, with us slowly begin to associate those films with their underwhelming remakes. And when everything's remade, none of those memories feel as special as they used to anymore. At the end of the day, animation is one of the most powerful and expressive forms of art that there is. And yet, for some reason, Disney, basically the entire face of animation, is treating it like just some fancy storyboard. A rough draft for something quote unquote better, just because it has a couple real faces and some photorealistic textures. But what really gets lost in this entire process is the soul of the art. The passion, the energy, the magic. The real reason why those films captivated so many of us when we were younger in the first place. Disney and its constant need to create live-action remakes of their classic films aren't just bad because they're soulless, they're a symptom of something way worse. They're the face of a system that values profit over passion, familiarity over innovation, and nostalgia over storytelling. These remakes aren't made to honor the originals, they're made to replace them. And if we keep rewarding that, we're telling the industry that art doesn't have to move you, it just has to remind you of something that once did. I don't know, man. Maybe this entire trend just pisses me off so badly because for a large portion of my life, I wanted to go into animation as a career. Back before I was a jaded, pessimistic adult, and before I truly knew just how bad some of the working conditions and practices were in the animation industry. Or maybe they pissed me off because like none of them are actually any good. Regardless, the people that actually work in animation, despite all those shitty practices, stay in that industry because they actually care about the medium and want to craft unique stories that really can't be told anywhere else. And say what you want about Walt Disney, like, you could probably say a lot of things. There's actually a very high chance he deadass stole Mickey Mouse from somebody else. But one thing I know for sure is that he 100% cared about the quality of content that he delivered to his audience, which I can't really say for the current state of his company. Disney was built on the idea that a dream, drawn frame by frame, could actually move the world. But now they're treating those dreams like intellectual properties to be recycled and resold. And if we keep rewarding that, we're not just enabling more companies to follow this trend, we're actively killing the very creativity that made us fall in love with movies in the first place. Also, FYI, Nani would never fucking give Lilo up. Appreciate you guys once again for actually watching till the end. It actually means more than you could probably imagine. I promise I'm really trying my best to stay positive on here, but I just really hate everything about those films. The only one of those I actually spent my own money to watch was The Little Mermaid, but like that was just to support my girl Hallie. But thanks again for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys next time.